Japan has started releasing 350 million gallons of Fukushima's radioactive wastewater into the Pacific Ocean. But is this actually as scary as it sounds? We summarize everything you need to know right now. So by now, most people know that Japan has initiated a controlled release of treated radioactive water from the wrecked Fukushima nuclear power plant. You've probably already come across news reports on this highly controversial subject. But is it really as controversial as many headlines make it seem? Because of the general fear around anything nuclear, there is unfortunately a lot of clickbait which we have to filter out in order to understand what's really going on when it comes to nuclear energy byproducts. So before panicking and joining the nearest protest, let's present some facts in order to understand how much of a danger Japan's plan actually poses. Let's not sugarcoat it. Radioactive water, as a blanket term, sounds really bad. Even though the average person doesn't have a positive opinion about nuclear energy, it's still used today, over 70 years after the first commercial nuclear power station started operation in the 1950s. As most know, nuclear technology was first researched during World War II with a focus on producing bombs. And today, nuclear energy via the process of nuclear fission provides about 10% of the world's electricity. There are about 440 nuclear reactors spread around the globe right now. Compared to fossil fuels, nuclear power is a more stable and environmentally friendly source of energy. That is, unless something goes wrong, in which case the results can be catastrophic. Although the list of nuclear-related incidents is long, here are some examples of serious nuclear power plant accidents. 1961, SL-1 in Idaho, USA, was a reactor prototype intended to provide electrical power, but suffered a steam explosion resulting in multiple fatalities. 1979, 3 Mile Island, Pennsylvania, USA. A failed pressure valve coupled with human error led to a near-core meltdown and the release of radioactive steam into the surrounding counties. 1986, Chernobyl, Reactor 4 experienced a meltdown. This catastrophic event was one of 2 nuclear energy accidents with a maximum rating of 7 on the International Nuclear Event Scale. The other being 2011, Fukushima. 3 reactors melted down as a result of the Great East Japan earthquake, a terrifying 9.1 magnitude earthquake that triggered a tsunami whose waves reached 133 feet and speeds at up to 435 miles per hour in some places. The terrible effect of this earthquake on Japan has since become known as the costliest natural disaster in history. Here's a graph courtesy of the World Nuclear Association that shows nuclear energy's continual growth over time, and especially its resurgence following the 2011 Fukushima disaster. 32 countries have operational nuclear power plants, and here you can see all countries who generate nuclear energy as of 2021. The 3 largest producers are by far the USA, then China, and surprisingly France. France actually gets around 70% of its electricity from nuclear energy. Following the Fukushima disaster, nuclear plans were mostly put on hold in Japan, the US, and Europe. However, China and Russia have pushed ahead and now account for 69% of reactors that are currently under construction or planned worldwide. Put simply, when a uranium nucleus is split, thermal energy is produced. This energy is used to make high-temperature, high-pressure steam from water boiled inside the nuclear reactor. The steam then drives a turbine which generates electricity. This is similar to the way a conventional thermal power plant works, except that a nuclear reactor is used instead of a boiler, and additional equipment is needed to manage radiation and radioactive materials. Uranium-235 is used as a fuel in this process because it can be easily split. Natural uranium only has around 0.7% uranium-235, so it has to be enriched until around 3 to 5%, which is considered low enriched uranium before its use. This differs greatly from nuclear weapons, which use 90% or above weapons-grade highly enriched uranium. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant is operated by the Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO for short, and is one of 33 plants in Japan. As of August 2nd, 2023, 11 are currently in operation, with the rest either suspended or undergoing decommissioning. The main reason for this is, of course, the March 11th, 2011 earthquake, the strongest earthquake in Japan's recorded history. Because it happened 81 miles off Japan's east coast under the Pacific Ocean, the ensuing tsunami wreaked havoc on the coast as well as damaging the plant's emergency generators. And this power loss ultimately led to 3 nuclear meltdowns, 3 hydrogen explosions, and the release of radioactive contamination. Since then, a plan to decommission and tear down the plant is underway, but it is expected to take up to 30 or 40 years. One of the biggest technical challenges for TEPCO and the Japanese government is how to deal with 350 million gallons of contaminated water, which is stored in over 1,000 on-site tanks. This wastewater is continuously accumulating because when the reactors were shut down, the radioactive materials that remained inside the reactor at the time of shutdown continue to decay, release energy, release heat, and that requires cooling. As of today, 130 tons of contaminated water is created daily, collected, treated, and then stored. That is the weight of a blue whale every single day. But tank storage spaces run out because that space needs to be used to build facilities that will aid in the plant's decommissioning. Predicting this on-site storage issue, the wastewater release plan was approved in 2021 by the Japanese government. They have been working on a complex filtration system that removes most of the radioactive isotopes from the water. Known as the Advanced Liquid Processing System, or ALPS for short, it removes radioactive contaminants from the water. ALPS, in conjunction with other systems, have been used to remove some of the most hazardous isotopes from the water, such as cesium-137 and strontium-90. But unfortunately, there's a radioactive isotope that they cannot filter out, and that's tritium. Tritium is an isotope of hydrogen, and hydrogen is part of the water itself, so it's impossible to create a filter that could remove the tritium. As of August 24, 2023, Japan has started the process of releasing more than 1 million metric tons of treated water from the wrecked Fukushima nuclear power plant, and this water still contains tritium. The method used to do so in a controlled way is by sending it through a pipe to a coastal pool, where it is then diluted with seawater and then released through an undersea tunnel to an offshore point, which is 0.6 miles out. As of the time of this video, Phase 1 is ongoing, which is the release of only 7,800 cubic meters over 17 days, so strict observations can be made and testing can be done. Any type of regional backlash against this plan should come as no surprise. Today there's far greater exposure and dissemination of information than ever before due to the internet and globalization. Naturally, Japan's plan is strongly criticized by China, Taiwan, Korea, and some Pacific nations, as well as residents within Japan, especially local fishing groups. As of now, China itself has banned all seafood imports from Japan, and there are reports of Japanese schools in China having eggs and even a rock thrown at them. Many centers in Japan are being flooded with harassment phone calls from mainland China. However, Beijing has been accused of hypocrisy and of using the incidents to whip up anti-Japanese sentiment. In addition to the import bans, many Chinese have cancelled their upcoming tours and vacations in Japan. Scientists have pointed out that China's own nuclear power plants release wastewater with higher levels of tritium than that found in Fukushima's discharge. China's Fuqing power plant in Fujian province releases about 3 times more tritium into the Pacific Ocean than the planned Fukushima discharge, according to reports. The International Atomic Energy Agency, essentially the UN's nuclear watchdog, have recently released a report regarding Japan's plan to release this water into the sea. Many nuclear and radiological experts have responded to this report. The Society for Radiological Protection has said, "The IAEA has issued a comprehensive assessment of plans to begin discharging treated water to sea from the Advanced Liquid Processing Plant, or ALPS, at Fukushima. They concluded that plans are consistent with international standards and that discharges will have a negligible radiological impact on people and the environment. The discharged water will contain tritium, a radioactive isotope of hydrogen, in the form of water. All other radionuclides are almost completely removed by processing, but H2O remains in the water." The IAEA verdict is entirely justifiable, as the discharges of tritiated water will be similar to those from Fukushima before the accident in 2011. They are also substantially less than routine discharges from some other nuclear installations, including Sellafield in Cumbria and Cap La Hague in France. As concluded by IAEA, there should be no concerns that these operations could in any way affect human health or the environment. Dr. Mark Foreman, Associate Professor of Nuclear Chemistry and Industrial Materials Recycling at Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden, said, "The releases of these radionuclides from the ALPS treated water will not greatly increase the amount of these radionuclides in the sea. The radiation doses which it is expected that the general public will get as a result of the discharge to sea will be very unlikely to induce cancer in the people living in Japan." Although alternatives were explored, time has run out. 12 years have passed, but just as research and testing has led to the ALPS treatment system, research into alternatives didn't yield ideal results. Here is the main alternative that some still argue in favor of. If indeed the treated water is relatively safe after being diluted, it could be used to mix concrete. Expanding the large anti-tsunami seawall is necessary, so using the treated water for that purpose would remove the issue of ocean release. In any given year, Japan produces over 50 million tons of cement. Japan has responded to the suggested proposal, saying it is difficult due to both technical and legal aspects. Concrete containing ALPS treated water would be classified as a radioactive waste under domestic law, and the mass of ALPS treated water currently being stored is enormous, and that would only become exponentially greater after it's diluted. For these two reasons alone, it just simply is not a viable alternative to use this treated water to mix concrete. Understanding and accepting geographical risk is also a big factor in how this situation has arisen. Building nuclear power plants in an earthquake-prone country probably carries more risk than in zones away from fault lines, regardless of how good the engineers are. The Kashiwazaki Kariwa nuclear power plant in Niigata is the world's largest nuclear power plant and is also operated by TEPCO, and it's one of many plants in Japan whose operations have been suspended. With regards to Fukushima, opposition to the release plan of the ALPS treated water into the Pacific is ongoing and won't stop anytime soon. The current decommissioning roadmap extends until 2051, and the next step involves the highly dangerous removal of nuclear fuel debris. This debris is essentially melted nuclear fuel and other substances that have cooled and re-solidified following the reactor's meltdowns. Here we can actually see the location of fuel debris in each of the 3 reactors. As of now, with regulatory agencies, experts, and the Japanese government all in agreement on the relative safety of the current water disposal plan, it looks unlikely to change anytime soon. All information in this piece has been sourced as well as possible directly from reputable news sources, TEPCO, the Japanese government, the UN, and other academic journals. Whether you choose to believe it or do your own independent research is completely your prerogative. This has simply been a way of consolidating the key points of this current issue with no bias. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. If you have information to add or different opinions and ideas, then please share them in the comments below. Things are rarely black and white, so we want to hear your thoughts. Minasan, domo arigato. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time, right here on No Frontiers.